When you're not getting lucid and you're trying and you're putting in so much effort but it's not working, then it can feel like a real waste of time and energy. And it's really easy at this point to throw in the towel. I mean, I know I've nearly done that. I get it. But I've also broken through that on multiple occasions and helped other people to do that too. And I promise you, it is worth it on the other side. And so if you're in that situation where you're feeling a little discouraged with your practice, I want to share 2 really powerful reframes that one of my teachers, Andrew Holecek, who's a lucid dreaming author and teacher, especially in dream yoga, one of the reframes he shares to really help bolster us while we walk this practice and this path. Really powerful. Can never get them out of my head. And the first one is this: to think of your lucid dreaming practice like a pot of water on a stove that you're trying to boil. Now, we know the old adage, a pot that's watched will never boil. And this is kind of how it feels sometimes when we're in our practice. You've put your pot on the stove, you've turned on the fire, but it doesn't start boiling instantly, you're not getting lucid, and you're like, is this even working? And what's important is to realize that everybody has a different kind of pot. We're all working with a different size, a different shape, a different material, and also how much water is in there. Lucidity is in some ways a natural side effect of a kind of internal cleanup process in our minds. Different kinds of things have to come into place for us to start recognizing our dream, and we're often working against a lifetime of habit. So for some people, it might take a little longer than others, like how a pot that is fully full and this big will take longer to boil. But of course, the other thing is to remember that the fire, this is your effort, this is your dedication, this is what you're putting in. As long as you keep putting fire into the pot, it will boil. And in some ways, the fire is what we have control over, right? And we know a bigger flame, it will definitely boil the water quicker. And all that to say is that even with a big flame, with a pot and a water, it's going to take a second. And for a lot of that time, you can look at the water and nothing's going to seem to be happening. It's really frustrating. But there is something happening. From this kind of metaphor, in the kind of the chemical sense of what's happening in that water, there is little molecules getting heated up, which are heating up other ones. It's a similar process inside of yourself. As you're doing the practices, something inside you is shifting. Something inside of you is changing. If you don't see it immediately in your lucidity practice, take encouragement from the fact that it is doing something in the way that heat on a pot and water is going to slowly boil it. But ultimately take comfort from the fact that no matter how big the pot or how much water, if you've got the right fire and you just keep putting fire on that pot, you will eventually boil and you will eventually get lucid. In the meantime, the second reframe, which I love, really, really love, will help you. And so the second reframe that Andrew shared is that failure correctly related to is success. And that's the thing with this practice. If you see lucid dreaming as an extraordinary, scientific, adventurous sort of escapade into the cutting edge of your own consciousness, then when things don't work, you don't need to be like, oh, I can't get lucid. You go, okay, cool. That thing I didn't work. Why? And what else can I try? As you would have known, there's so many different practices with lucid dreaming, so many different sort of, state checks, induction methods, wake back to bed methods, so many different things you can try. And so let that be, a flag of hope where instead of doing the same thing and it not working, if something doesn't work, relate to it correctly. Get the feedback from it and go, okay, this thing didn't work. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to turn that failure into a part of my success. And when you do that, not only I think do you become a better practitioner, but I promise you will enjoy it more. One of the ways you can do this in a practical sense is to keep a diary around it. So if you try something, go, I tried this last night, it didn't work. Instead I'm going to try this. Then you feel a bit more, like you are a scientist of your own mind. And that's what this practice gives you. You can be in a really personal, visceral exploration of how your mind and psyche works. So take advantage of that. Failure, when related to correctly, is success. I hope those reframes help. And for those of you other lucid dreamers out there, feel free to share some words of encouragement below too. I think being in solidarity as a community helps. We know we're not just out there succeeding or struggling alone.